Welcome to another episode of ESPN Honolulu's Fan Friday Talk Story. Now, one thing as we're into the summer, you think, well, school's out, there's nothing going on at University of Hawaii Athletics. But one of the things that happens is transitions. We have new people coming in, and one of the new coaches for the University of Hawaii is with swimming and diving, men's swimming and diving, a new head coach coming all the way from Boston and the East Coast. And we want to welcome Michael Stevens joining us as a new head coach for University of Hawaii men's swimming and diving. And first of all, Coach, thanks for taking the time for being a part of our Fan Friday Talk Story.
Yeah, thanks, David. Really excited to be here and excited to talk with you.
Now, you were just announced, so, you're fresh. Are we the first media interview for you in some capacity?
Yes, yeah. So just announced middle of last week, and so, first time. Really excited.
Oh. All right, got to put that feather in our hat right there. And I know we're chatting a little bit before we started this recording, is that you're still in Boston, right? So what's kind of the timeline for you as far as transitioning, moving, and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so I'm still in Boston. I'm wrapping up here over the next week or two, just helping the program here kind of transition and then just kind of getting all my life logistics in order. And I'm going to be heading out to Hawaii just in a couple weeks, so towards the end of the month, and then I'll officially start June 28th. So really, really excited to get out there and kind of get to start meeting the team and get going, hit the ground running. So really, really excited.
And we mentioned, obviously, you're in Boston because you're previously were the head coach at Boston College. Now, I guess it's one thing for, your coaching career, but there's another thing to, obviously location and things of that nature. But before we get into that part, tell us a little bit about your career at Boston College, because you're an alumnus of Boston College, right?
I am, yes. So, I swam, did my undergrad at BC. I swam there, had a great experience. I improved a lot as an athlete. I felt like I got a great education and really kind of grew as a person. And I think I actually left for 1 year after school, and my degree's in finance. And so I did a year working in corporate finance, and pretty quickly realized that like my calling was to coach. And so I was fortunate to come back as an assistant coach a year after I graduated, and spent 4 years as an assistant before taking over as a head coach 5 seasons ago. So, all in all, it's been a long time at BC. It's a place that's near and dear to my heart, but I think I am really, really proud of what we've been able to accomplish here. And I knew it was going to take something special to kind of pull me away, and I really found that in the University of Hawaii and the swimming and diving program there. And really, really excited about the opportunity to do some great things in Hawaii.
And you mentioned it would take something special because, obviously in collegiate coaching there, you move, you go, that's kind of the understood element of that profession. But I guess my curiosity is, here you are, you're an alum, so you're really connected to Boston College. Pretty much that has been, up to this point, your entire coaching career there. And so it's one thing to be an alum and that connection there. What was that special element that was not only going to aid to the decision for you to leave Boston College, but to go not just across the continent, but way across the Pacific Ocean, all the way to the University of Hawaii? What was that special thing?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think, through the interview process and every step along that, getting to know more and more people and understanding more about, the university and the culture of Hawaii, it really drew me in. And I think one of the things I really felt like through my research and kind of what I learned about the culture and the values of Hawaii, and that all obviously I think trickles into the athletic department, they really align with my coaching philosophy. And that was something that was really, really important. And then also, in some ways, there's no better place in the world to coach swimming or to be a swimmer, right? I think, the rich history of swimming and surfing and water sports in Hawaii, it's so unique, right? And I think it's such a big part of the culture that, like I said, I think in some ways it's one of the coolest places that you can, be participate in this sport. And then the other piece, hearing more and more about the current team, what they're like, what the potential is. And that's what I think one of the biggest draws was, is that, there seems like so much opportunity to really grow the program, and it's been successful, but to really grow it and take it even a step further is something that really, really excites me as an opportunity to really build something maybe even greater than what has been, and that's something that I think really, really drew me in.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad there was something that drew you in to pull you all the way. Now, transition is always kind of challenging, right? For when you're head coach of a program, going to another, because like recruiting, although there are the dates, but technically they never stops, right? So, are you in a way, although officially on paper you might not start till the date you just mentioned, is it later July or something like that? But are you kind of almost juggling two head coaching positions right now?
Yeah, in some ways, and I think I want to make sure that we're leaving the program here in the best place possible. I feel like we have done that, and we've set it up for success in the future, and then just making sure that we can make the transition as easy as possible, and making sure the athletes we have here training with us this summer are taken care of. But yeah, kind of already trying to hit the ground running with Hawaii, and I think one of those things is really starting to get to know the athletes. I think obviously there's going to be a big vision in terms of what we want to accomplish in the water, but before we can get to any of that, I really need to start getting to know each other, and I think building that trust. And so right now there's been trying to coordinate a lot of different phone calls and Zoom meetings with athletes on the team so that we can really start to develop that, so then when we get to the start of the school year, we can really kind of hit the ground running, and we can learn more about each other every step along the way. And then recruiting never stops, right? So I think that's something that we're trying to really start kind of get moving on, and making sure that we're bringing in the next best group of athletes that we can for the following years.
Recruiting, I hear coaches always talk about, for instance, like being at Boston College. Obviously you have a terrific network that you developed along the East Coast, but how big did your recruiting network expand into, especially in swimming? Like each sport kind of has their different, I guess, community, if you want to call it. And then therefore now coming all the way to Hawaii, I know there's generally an attempt to really dig into the West Coast and I guess parts of the Rocky Mountain area. So do you see some overlap as it stands, or is it more of you're going to have to start developing some new networks?
Yeah, I think it's definitely different, but I do think there is a good bit of overlap. So, Hawaii has done a really nice job, the combination of international student athletes as well as domestic. And I think at BC, we're a little bit on the smaller percentage of international athletes. We do have some, but we have done a really good job, being geographically diverse within the United States. So I think we have on our current team at Boston College, 24 different states represented. Mm-hmm. So we're pulling people from all across the country. We have an athlete from Canada, an athlete coming in from Dubai. We had a swimmer at the Olympics from Barbados. So we definitely have kind of cast a pretty wide net. And I think that's something I want to carry into, recruiting at Hawaii. And I know that they've had success doing that. And I feel confident that I have good relationships with the club programs kind of all throughout different areas of the country. And then, yeah, I'm excited about the opportunity to recruit more internationally and start to develop those connections too. And I know that Hawaii has already been doing that. So it's a really good place to kind of jump off from.
Michael Stevens joining us on our Fan Friday Talk Story episode today, the new men's and swimming and diving coach at the University of Hawaii. By the way, what was your event when you were a competitive collegiate swimmer?
Yeah, so I mostly swam breaststroke and some of the medley relays, a little bit of butterfly, but kind of transitioned in my later years and mostly focused on breaststroke.
I am a diehard Olympics fan, which also means I'm a fair-weathered swimming fan, because that's really the only time every 4 years when I really dig in. I love watching the swimming events. And I always wondered, okay, so a lot of times, like say football, for example, you hear about, a lot of coaches, media talk about height, arm length, weight, what is appropriate physical characteristics of the good quote-unquote football player for a quarterback or for a linebacker, so forth. Are there things physically that you're looking for that are really ideal for swimming generally, and more specific toward events like for the sprints or maybe for the butterfly? Like, is a butterfly swimmer, you'd want someone 6'4" with wingspan that extends like the albatross or something. Are there some of those physical characteristics?
I mean, definitely. I mean, those things don't hurt, right? I mean, I think if, Michael Phelps is probably the biggest name in swimming, right? And you look at him, he's got the, 6'4" frame, 6'7" wingspan, right? I mean, those things certainly help, but I think, there are, so many different ways for people to swim fast and compete at a high level, right? And so I think, we try to really do a good job in the recruiting process of tracking potential, right? And so seeing, who, not just who the fast swimmers are, but who we believe has the opportunity to really grow and develop and have their best 4 years, during college. And so, I mean, there are different things, obviously height, wingspan, certain flexibility things of their knees or of their shoulders, that all kind of factor in. And obviously some will be more important for sprint versus middle distance versus distance. But I think a big thing too, I mean, some of those intangible characteristics tend to be really, really important. Their grit, their heart for the sport, and their care for their teammates, and all those different factors that will make somebody maybe go that extra 10% that you need to do it at a really high level. So kind of all those different factors are things we think about in the recruiting process.
Okay, now based on that physical stuff, kind of give me some insight. So I look at when I watch Olympic swimming, a lot of the swimmers tend to be leaner. Yeah, they tend to be lean. Of course, maybe about -2% body fat, right? Michael Phelps, I consider him a little bit more of a leaner body, longer torso. Then I look at a guy like Caleb Dressel, and he was a little bit more muscular to me, at least relatively speaking. I know you said there's different ways. Some people just have the skills, but the leaner body versus a little bit more muscular body, how does that factor, do you think? Is it?
Yeah, I think it really depends on the individual, right? And I think, I think the argument for why Michael Phelps stayed leaner and put less of a focus on weights early on in his career was because he was swimming such a diverse lineup of events, and he was going to these big international competitions and trying to win medals in 7 or 8 different events. And so endurance was a really, really important factor, where Caleb Dressel's, at least coming up, his best events were the sprints. But obviously he came from a program at the University of Florida where, he was training, pretty high in endurance work as well. And he has developed into a really, versatile, well-rounded swimmer too. So, but I think, when you coach swimming, right, like you could have people swimming the exact same events, but they need very different training plans. And that includes what you're doing in the pool, what you're doing in the weight room, and you really got to learn your athlete in terms of like what's going to work best for them, right? And I think, I think Caleb started earlier with the weights, and it worked, and obviously I'm sure that's morphed as he's gotten older. And I think with Michael, he started off, a little more dry land, like body weight strength and conditioning, and then that developed into, a little bit more weights as he got later into his career. So it's really athlete specific, right? And I think you have to start working with the athlete to understand kind of what works best for them in terms of like their body type, and I think what's going to make them, most successful in the pool.
I was reading in your press release that you just mentioned it as well, that you coached a swimmer from Barbados in the most recent Summer Olympics in Tokyo, correct?
I did, yeah. Alex Sobers was a graduate student and volunteer coach for us at Boston College, and so I coached him the year and a half leading up to Tokyo, and then we both went to participate in that game, which was a pretty cool experience.
Okay, so going to an Olympics is on my bucket list because of the big fandom that I am, kind of almost geeky, almost strange. But tell me a little bit about the experience in Tokyo. Now, how did the fact that the games got pushed back a year in terms of the training element, but then once you got there, give us a snapshot of the experience.
Yeah, so it actually is a big part of the reason why Alex and I met. So he had planned to go, he had graduated college and was going to go right to the Olympics, hopefully after he graduated. And then when it got postponed, he left his university after he graduated and was looking at graduate schools in the Boston area. And, he reached out to me and asked if I would kind of help guide him through that process for the last year leading up. And it was interesting because we started working together kind of right out of, in July 2020. So COVID had kind of just taken its, biggest kind of shutdown. And so we started up coming right out of that. And so we really had to start from scratch, right? Which was interesting. You know what I mean? And I think in some ways it was good because it really allowed us to develop a good relationship and trust. And we built him up slowly. And But it was a really good process. I mean, we had enough time to really develop him, and he improved drastically in that year, and qualified, and broke a couple national records. So that whole process was really, I think we developed a great relationship, and it was a great learning experience for me as a coach. But then the experience in Tokyo was incredible. Obviously I'd never been to an Olympics prior to that, and so obviously there were a lot of restrictions with COVID, but it was still such a neat experience, right? Walking around in the Olympic Village, and you're surrounded by thousands of the best athletes in the world, right? It's really, really neat, right? And you walk into a dining hall and you see Andy Murray, or you see Novak Djokovic, or some of these like just incredible athletic talent, right? It's really, really neat, right? And everybody there is at the top end of their sport, right? And so that's really, really cool. And then getting to be in the swimming venue and seeing some of those incredible races, and then you take the transportation from the village to the aquatic complex with swimmers and coaches from all other countries, right? So when someone wins a gold medal, like, you're riding back on the shuttle with a gold medalist, and people are so excited, and the energy it's incredible. So really, really cool experience. In some ways it feels like once in a lifetime. I hope to get to go again. But it was a joy, and definitely a privilege to be there.
Okay, now here's an opportunity that I didn't prep you for, so this is a total surprise. So obviously I know you have a lot of questions related to Hawaii, like the city of Honolulu, what's it like living there, and the tidbits about University of Hawaii you'll get from your professor colleagues, but more about just coming to Hawaii. I have a lot of questions about Boston. I've never been there, so if we could, maybe 3 questions, Q&A, back and forth. You can ask me a question about Hawaii. I'll ask you a question about Boston. And then hopefully, I'm not the most worldly person. I don't know if I can answer everything, but I'll do my best. So first up for you, what is the first question you would have about either the city of Honolulu or the state of Hawaii?
I guess what is your favorite beach on Oahu?
My favorite beach there's Ala Moana Beach. So if you heard of Ala Moana Center, it's right next to that. But okay. I think the most known and popular stretch of beach on Oahu is on Kailua. So that's on the windward side of the island, maybe about a 20-minute drive from University of Hawaii. But it's a long stretch, so it kind of pops up in magazines. I think there's something about it's one of the longer stretches of sand, that kind of stuff. Either one of those two would work.
Okay.
Now, Boston, I notice there is that Boston accent, which I'm not going to even try because I can't do it. But you don't have that. So is the Boston accent more kind of regional in certain areas?
So yes. So I grew up in Maryland, just outside of DC. And so I came up here as a college student, and that was the first time I really heard it outside of maybe seeing it in movies. And I think it just depends where you grew up, right? I think there are certain pockets of the city where it's really strong. There are certain towns in the suburbs where it's really strong, but there are some Bostonians that don't have it, and it's for some reason it hasn't. I haven't seemed to pick it up even though I've been here for about 13 years. So, but yeah, it's a very distinct accent for sure.
The only word I can really say that might come close is just saying the city name, Boston. It kind of sounds like that, doesn't it?
Yep.
That's terrible. You can tell me that sucked, but that was terrible.
No, it's bad. It's better than most. It's better than most. But it's distinct.
Okay. Second question about Hawaii. City of Honolulu, state of Hawaii.
What is your favorite food that you probably couldn't get anywhere else?
I don't think you can get poke in Boston, for one. So I don't know how you are with fish, but that's raw fish, cubed, and then it's seasoned either with soy sauce or some other types. You can make it spicy or, tame. But believe it or not, there's a lot of UH student athletes that have come from other parts of the country, other parts of the world. And I ask them, what's your favorite food? And they have gravitated to poke. So hopefully you'll try it, and it'll be something you'll like as well.
When I was out there a month ago, I did try it. I loved it. It was great.
Oh, okay. You're there. David Matlin, our athletic director, said, he likes poke. He's in. Okay. My question, another question about Boston. You hear about Boston they always say that's a really good sports town. What sports is kind of the the most popular there?
So pro sports are huge. Between the Celtics, the Red Sox, and the Bruins, really strong fan base, and the Patriots. I would say in college sports in the New England area, hockey is probably the most, that's probably the most deeply rooted. I think because it's such a regional sport, but it's been so important to this area for a long time. So all the universities out here have really, really strong hockey teams, and so
I know
it's
BC
fun.
does, right?
BC does. BC's had they've won multiple national championships. The head coach here just retired. I mean, he's in the Hockey Hall of Fame. So it's a really, really, it's a fun sport to watch for sure. But yeah, definitely I would say hockey.
Okay. One last question about Hawaii for you.
Yeah, let me think.
Can be a quirky one too.
Yeah. I guess of all the islands, I guess what has been what's your favorite place if you had to pick one place to be, where would it be?
My pick would be the Big Island.
Okay.
I think when you think of Hawaii, you think of volcanoes, and that's the only
Right.
place you're going to see an active volcano. So why not go there? And plus, it's a lot more rural as an island, so you can see more of that just ruralness. A lot of the tourists will always, and probably the tourism, it promotes the island of Maui next to Oahu as the next biggest place. But it is more developed, nicer hotels, but you got some nice resorts on the Big Island. So I would say Big Island to go there.
Okay.
All right. And my last question for Boston. When I visited the University of Oregon, and there's a local product from here that went there, and Marcus Mariota became the Heisman Trophy at Oregon.
Yeah.
The athletics area is like this Taj Mahal to Marcus Mariota. I mean, he is like a deity over there. When I think of Boston College, I think of Doug Flutie, way back in the mid-'80s, winning the Heisman Trophy. What is his presence like still at Boston College? Like, is there some monument? Is there some statue to Doug Flutie? Is he still relevant there?
Yeah. So yeah, I still remember Marcus being one of my favorite, college ball players to follow. I mean, he had such an incredible career and was so fun to watch. But yeah, Doug has a statue right outside of our football stadium.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's that Hail Mary pass where he has that really far lean back, and it's essentially commemorating that. But he has since moved to Florida, I think in the last 10 years. But he's a pretty big presence on campus. When I was an undergrad here, he was still living in the area, so he would be around all the time. Like, you could see him playing pickup basketball in the rec center. He would come to athletic events and all that stuff. So now that he's moved, he's not around as much, but loves Boston College, and obviously is, to your point, probably our most well-known athlete. So.
Oh, well, that's amazing. Well, hey, I just want to say, first of all, congratulations on becoming the new head coach for University of Hawaii men's swimming and diving. Good luck in this transition as well. A big one for you. I mean, first kind of physical move, career move, so to speak, and everything of that nature. So I know that's very exciting for you, and definitely good luck coming up in this next season. Thanks so much for being on Fan Friday Talk Story.
Thanks, Dave. Really appreciate it, and look forward to getting out to Hawaii.